time is upon us. We've heard his bellows from afar. Can you hear him? He's approaching. And what say you? Is that you? Hello there! The fog separates and he appears from the shadows. He transforms before our very eyes and walks upon the earth. He is the Crow.
It's happening again. Sharknado 2, the second one, premieres Wednesday, July 30th at 9, only on Sci-Fi.
Yes, indeed. That was the teaser trailer for Sharknado 2. And maybe you're asking, because you weren't paying attention, why are we showing that? Well, I'll tell you why. Because our guest here tonight on this episode of Eat Crow, and as always, that is not a suggestion, that is a commandment. Our guest is Mr. Anthony C. Ferrante, the director of Sharknado, Sharknado 2, as well as a bevy of other films, and we'll be discussing those things as well. So, Anthony, thank you so much for taking the time to come out and talk about things that are near and dear to our hearts.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's very fun here. It's very interesting. It's a great studio.
Yeah, no,
you have a dog.
Yes, and yeah, we have a mascot who likes to lie on her back and go, "Here's all of my parts. Here I am. Pet me anytime." Middle of the show, or let's go play catch. So obviously huge success with Sharknado and Sharknado 2, and we'll be getting that stuff, but I would really like to sort of delve into sort of your roots and how you came to this stuff. You and I have always been sort of like mild acquaintances through mutual friends, Regent St. Clair, my singer for Castle Black, as well as Mr. Robbie Rist, who helped work on some of the music we're going to listen to later. So were you originally a writer for Fangoria? Was that?
Yeah, I mean, the way things started, it was like the inception of wanting to make movies started when I was 11.
Yeah.
But I had no idea what that meant because I came from a small town in Northern California.
Oh, really? Where?
Antioch.
Okay. I dated parts of Antioch.
That's probably why there's a lot of bitter.
Exactly. Probably.
No. It's that would be kind of scary if you dated half of Antioch. But yeah. So there was no movie industry there, and there was no one really wanted to make movies there, so there was no access to stuff. And so I thought, okay, well, I know I want to make movies. I don't know why, but it just stuck in my head, and I want to do it. So I decided to review movies. I started writing for my sixth grade class. Started doing movie reviews like Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel kind of thing.
Did similar stuff in school too. Interesting.
And then I continued kind of doing that through junior high and high school. And then right around high school, there was a film class at the local community college, and I was able to convince. I don't know how I managed it, but I was able to convince them to let me take that even though I was still in high school. And then all bets were off. It was like, okay, well, I'm making movies because I got access to equipment, cameras, editing, and then we just started making stuff. And then, so I kind of had the journalism on sort of doing interviews and reviews. I started writing for the local paper, and then I started writing for Fangoria, which I would come down from, while I was going to college, I went to San Francisco State as well. I would go and cover set visits for Fangoria in LA. I'd drive down, do 2 set visits, come back, and that was more of a film school for me than actually
actual film school.
Actual film school. Even though it was, the film schools were good, it was just that you're actually when you go and cover a movie for Fangoria, you're talking a very small, low budget set. So it's not like it's the military approach of the studio. So everybody's just like, hey, how's it going? You get to meet a lot of great people, and they show you things that you would never have figured out. I would come back and go, hey, I just learned how to make rain. and so we would be doing a short film with rain.
That's awesome.
So
was there any sort of like a seminal film or something? I mean, was there sort of like that light bulb moment where you went, oh, making movies, this is Was there ever that thing, or was it just sort of something that slowly kind of percolated?
I think what it was horror movies. I mean, I loved horror movies when I was growing up. I'd always watch the late night things.
Creature features.
Bob
Wilkins.
John Stanley for me. I think I remembered a little bit of Bob Wilkins because I think he used to do like the Saturday or the weekday afternoon like Ultraman and stuff like that. But John Stanley was kind of the main thing for me. And yeah, it was great. It was great watching these old films, and then you'd start watching all the Abbott and Costellos, and
Right.
because they would re-air all this stuff. And I also got to know the owners of the local movie theater chain, so they would let me go watch movies all day at the theater. And my mom let me watch a lot of things I probably shouldn't have seen.
See, I was actually about to ask that. I mean, so it sounds like there was a nice level of parental support where people going, "Oh, you're pursuing something," and there was like a "Go do it, go pursue it."
Well, yeah, she knew I loved horror films, and then in this small town of Antioch, if you had permission from your parent to go to a movie, at least I had permission. I didn't sneak into it. It's like,
Right.
I want to go see Halloween in Motel Hell. Okay, I give my son permission to go see it. I'm not going to go watch it, and so that's kind of how that happened. But John Carpenter,
Yes.
like that, he is like the big guy for me because from Assault on Precinct 13, The Thing. Which I think is probably his masterpiece.
Yeah,
And
I'd agree.
Halloween, The Fog. I mean, it was just, there was something about his movies, and I think because the music and everything, I gravitated toward John Carpenter, and I was obsessed with what he accomplished. And I think also Halloween was probably the scariest movie I ever saw in a theater.
I remember. I remember seeing that movie. In fact, I wanted to see it and went to like one of the early multiplexes, and my parents and my brother all went to see some war movie or something, but they let me
Force
go see
10
it.
from Navarro.
Just about something like Where the Wild Geese Fly. It was like something with Roger Moore was in it.
Okay, I don't know that
Yeah,
one.
no, and for good reason. But I went and saw Halloween, and I remember meeting up with them in the lobby afterwards, and I was like, "How was your movie?" "It was really great. How was yours?" "Can we go home now and leave the lights on?" In fact, can we have the lights on in the car on the ride home? Freaked me out.
Well, they used to do revivals of they would reissue the movies before DVD
Sure.
and all that stuff. So Halloween came out way before I could ever see it, and so I actually caught it when it was being re-released.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd see the issues of Fangoria. I used to read Fangoria and all these other things. I'd see the photos of Michael Myers. I thought, is that his face? And that mask terrified me, and I needed to see the movie, even though it terrified me. And I saw the movie, it terrified me, and I've never been that scared again in a movie theater. And part of making horror movies is sort of this pay it forward thing. I want to give back to that 10-year-old, 11, 12-year-old kid who goes to the movies or is watching it on TV and it goes, "Hey, this movie scared me or made me smile or made me laugh. I want to go do that." Because that was a big thing for me. I mean, I really loved cinema. And I had no idea if I could actually get that opportunity to do it. I just kept
Giving a
persisting.
whack at it.
Yeah, I just kept doing it, and that's kind of part of the thing. It's luck and persistence.
Have you seen the Rob Zombie Halloween remakes?
Yeah. I mean, it's the thing is, if Rob Zombie was gonna remake The Fog or They Live or Prince of Darkness, I mean, which I love those movies. Okay, that's all right. But the hard part is when you're taking like Halloween. It's jarring because it's such a perfect movie.
Yeah.
And the stuff I loved about I loved what he did for all the Loomis and Michael Myers at the sanitarium, which we never saw. When he was doing that stuff, I wanted more of that movie.
Sure.
When it was, encroaching on stuff we already saw that we already knew. It's like you can't compare it to Jamie Lee Curtis.
Right.
It's not that he didn't make a good movie. It's just that you have that memory, which is why I think Halloween 2 is a far more interesting movie. Because he got to make his own kind of continuation.
Yeah.
He got to make an arty kind of Halloween, and I thought that was really interesting.
Mm-hmm. And he really does. There is an artiness to it, which is not something you would normally go, "Oh, Rob Zombie, arty." It's like, actually, you know what?
I think it was his like, look, okay, I did this first movie, I got it out of the way. Now I'm just gonna make on my own Michael Myers movie because no matter who you are. Even if it could have been Steven Spielberg remaking Halloween, everybody would have had that same problem, which is why I think it was smart for him to go in the direction of let's do the first 30 minutes at the sanitarium.
Right.
And Malcolm McDowell was great.
Yeah. Although, I mean, I think Steven Spielberg making a Halloween movie, either there'd be like a dinosaur or I don't know, there'd be...
John Williams would do the best freaking score
he
imaginable.
Would. Yeah.
I mean, it'd be like, sorry, John Carpenter. your theme's been supplanted because John Carpenter.
Yeah, exactly.
Which ironically, the kind of cool thing is like I interviewed John Carpenter a lot of times over the years, prior to getting to make movies, and it was always great talking to him, and it it was just really weird. My idol getting a chance to, and I did a short film called God Talk, and so I got all my idols to do voiceovers for there's a radio call-in show, and John Carpenter was one of them. Cronenberg.
Really? You got Cronenberg?
I got David
oh my
Cronenberg.
God!
I got Joe Dante, John Landis.
Oh, you did get all the greats.
And then actually, even though it's uncredited, Bruce Campbell was the narrator.
Oh man!
And so that was, and then Alan Howarth, who did all the score.
Oh yeah.
Carpenter did the score for the short film, and then when I did Boo and Headless Horseman and Hansel Gretel, Alan Howarth did the scores for those films.
There, in fact, which I was gonna wanted to move on. So I mean, Boo was really kind of the your first real movie.
Yeah. Well, prior to all this too was when I moved down to LA. How I got in the business was I was a PA on a film, and then I ended up supervising makeup effects because someone saw a short film I did that had a lot of effects. So I kind of got in by doing makeup effects and doing second unit, and I built up my reel enough that I got financing through David Allen and Kismet Entertainment for Boo, which was my first feature. And I wrote the script knowing that if I was ever going to get to direct a first movie, it would have to be a single location thing. And it was written exactly for Linda Vista Hospital, downtown LA. I shot a movie with Brian Usna there where I was doing effects called Progeny. And we'd just explore the place when we had downtime, and we were scaring people, the crew. Like, we went down to the basement and rigged a wheelchair with fishing line, and we had someone behind the door, and we'd bring crew down. Oh my gosh, there's a ghost here. And they'd go down there, and we'd open the door, and then the wheelchair would move, and they would bolt up the stairs. And so all these experiences and stuff ended up being a part of the script and then when we just made the movie, which never happens, we actually shot at the place I wrote it for, because I took the producers there. They were interested in the movie, and I said, let's go do a location scout. And I took them down there, and I said, this is what I wrote it for. And we went to lunch after we went there, and he goes, let's make the movie.
That's awesome.
And I got, David Allen, I give him a lot of credit because it's very hard for someone to take a chance on a first-time filmmaker.
Sure.
And he let me make a weird little horror film that's still has this audience, which is great.
I think it's great. 'Cause, I mean, and I'll be honest, I have not seen it yet, although it is something that I would love to see.
It's on Hulu Plus now. I just found out today.
Yeah, see, there you go, Hulu Plus. Go check out Boo. But yeah, I mean, everything that I've read, and I remember even Regent telling me that it's actually, it's a very effective horror film. That it gives you the creeps when a movie's supposed to give you the creeps, and it brings you through a story and gives you a payoff, and which I think that's success for a movie. I think.
Well, there's two things that I set out to do. One, I basically said if I'm making a movie, maybe I'll never get to make another one. I threw everything that I had into it. I go, I'm going to make the scariest thing I can make. The other thing was I wanted to make the movie as timeless as possible, because I noticed some of my favorite movies have that sort of kind of ethereal, timeless feel. So even though we made it in 2005, there's different types of cars in the movie, some retro cars. There's really no pop culture references except for this blaxploitation character that was in there. So that's sort of that's the past. That's not present day. There's cell phones, but we never draw attention to it. So it's in this little bubble, and when you watch it, it's like you're not quite sure when it was made. And I've tried to do that in each of my movies, like Hansel and Gretel and Headless Horseman as well. It's like I try to mix it up and toss in we have a retro police car in Hansel and Gretel, which I know the producers are like, why did you do that? It's like, no, trust me, it just makes it so people not quite, you have iPhones, but you have this old police car. It's like, what year was this made?
Right, keep them guessing.
And I think that's the thing is, I think the biggest mistake a lot of movies made. Now, if you're doing a comedy or doing something else, you do sometimes you have to have those pop culture references. Right. But when you're doing a horror movie, if you can be very strategic, the movie can have a longer shelf life. The Thing, aside from that little chess computer thing and 2 stop motion shots, that movie looks like it was made today.
Exactly.
It holds up. It's flawless, and that's the testament. Even Halloween, even though it feels like it was set in the 70s, it just feels like it's a period piece. It doesn't feel like it was.
It doesn't feel dated at all.
It doesn't feel dated.
Yeah, it's like here's a period of time, and this is where that story happened, and it works. And I mean, to me, and yes, The Thing is so perfectly done. When they attempted the sort of really bad remake, it should have been called The Thing from Another World, and why? It was just I mean,
No, and then we're talking to other people. Like, I mean, I love the Val Lewton produced horror films from the 1940s and 50s because they were very suspenseful, and there's a lot of suspense sequences there. David Cronenberg, Videodrome is still one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
Blowout by Brian De Palma.
Oh my God.
But the other thing is, I also one of my favorite filmmakers is Barry Levinson, and
Tremendous filmmaker.
Diner is probably one of my all-time favorite movies, and I will try to watch it every year to remind myself what a first-time filmmaker movie is. And one of the things I took from that, and I've done a little bit in each film, and actually even more so in the Sharknado movies, is that there's sort of a conversational feeling to when people are talking.
Right.
It doesn't feel like it's scripted. It just they feel like they know each other, and I've been obsessed with that. And I did a bunch of these little short films for the Leverage TV show where we kind of use that conversational style. And then when I got into Sharknado, it was like all bets were off. We took the bar scene, which is one of my favorite scenes in Sharknado, and we just deconstructed the whole thing and did ad libs and just tried to make it feel like these people knew each other. And I think the best comment in any review was, yeah, and you actually get to know these characters and blah 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 blah. Because after that point, it's like we gotta go, run. but in that little moment, it was as authentic as we could make, and that came from loving what Barry Levinson does.
I mean, Diner's tremendous. The Natural is one of my favorite all-time movies. That's one of those, oh, it's 3:00 in the morning. I have to get up in an hour and a half. Oh, The Natural's on. Fuck it, I'm not sleeping.
He also, the Baltimore trilogy, I mean, Tim Minn's really good, but Avalon. Yes. Avalon's is amazing. So underrated. That movie is, I wish more people knew of that film. Yeah, so that's sort of the backstory of the people that I love. There's many more, but
from Barry Levinson to Sharknado, that's a completely logical connect the dots.
I'm sure right now he's going to make sure that he never says it again. And he's sending somebody over here right now to beat the crap at me with a bat.
So I mean, without getting into the complete backstory of where the idea of Sharknado came from, I mean, so you've made these films. How did you approach sci-fi? How did you end up with the project?
Well, I mean, part of the whole thing with Sharknado is it was a few years ago, and a friend of mine who I write a lot with, Jacob Hare, I was writing a lot of scripts for sci-fi, and we came up with the Sharknado thing, and we pitched it a couple times to them, and nothing happened with it. So I was writing a Leprechaun script, and so I made a reference to a Sharknado in the script. And it's like, we don't want to have what happened to another town. Remember the Sharknado? They never let that down. Or something like that. And so then Sci-Fi, we got to make that movie. And then through the whole thing with Asylum, I just had done a film with them. They were going to do Sharknado, and it just kind of all worked out. There was a little hesitation in the sense that, I was primarily the horror guy. And then they I got a chance to make Sharknado.
Very cool. Horror is sort of an obvious title, but how would you describe Sharknado?
I'll take what Robbie Ristas said about it. He's also in the movie, and he said there's two things he said about it, and I quote it all the time. One is he described the first movie as unhinged, but the second one, which I think describes it in a nutshell, is it's a movie that doesn't know it can't do that. and Robbie's so great at just nailing things down into one sentence, and that's basically what it is. If I was going to make a Sharknado movie, I wanted to make the most ambitious thing we could possibly do. I knew I had done enough of these. I know what could be done with the budgets, and I know where some people just kind of okay, we'll just kind of just rush through this and do this. I wanted to make a $200 million movie for the $1 million that we had to make the film. I wanted to push it to its limits. I wanted to have stuff happening all the time, and we'll plow through. It's ridiculous, but if we fail a little bit, fine. But there was an earnestness to it.
Sure.
And I think that the other thing too is I think people still, for the first movie, they were unsure what to make of it because all the characters were acting like they were in a Independence Day movie. All the characters were taking it seriously, except for our comic relief. Yet they had all this ridiculous stuff going on. And I think when we got to the end of the movie, when Ian Ziering goes into the shark with the chainsaws his way out, and then basically pulls Cassie out of the shark as well. I think at that moment, if you hated the movie or loved the movie and didn't know what we were thinking, that you knew where we stood at that point. We were in on the joke. We were purposely trying to make a fun movie. But it's very hard because, when you're watching it up until that point, it's like, well, it's so crazy and loopy, but what are they trying to do? And I think that was the great part about going into the second movie, is that at that point people know where we stand. So now we could just do whatever. And and as long as we adhere to no scientists, no military, it's about Finn and his journey and his family, and everybody has to play.
His name is Finn.
His name is Finn. Yes, yeah, of course. But yeah, and actually, my editor on the first movie came up with a little tag at the end. We did FIN, like a French film theme,
right?
And that became sort of a running gag too.
Well, let's do this. Number one, let's go ahead and run the trailer for the first Sharknado, and then actually want to play some of the. I think we should play the Ballad of Sharknado, just because it's such a great track, and then we can talk about some of the music.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's roll trailer number one.
Hurricane David is poised to be the first hurricane.
It's a storm. That's what's driven them all up north.
I've never seen so many of them nor so bold.
It's barely even raining.
It's flooding here, and not the plumbing, the ocean.
You need to go home.
I'm not going anywhere.
Storm's coming, and it's coming fast. Just can't sit back and watch this.
Tornado's heading towards the airport. We need to destroy it before it gets to them. Watch out!
You can't just wait here and wait for sharks to rain down on us.
We're gonna throw bombs into the tornadoes.
It's too dangerous. Too many of them. We're gonna need a bigger chopper.
Claudia, move!
It's time to leave Kansas, mate.
How does anybody not want to see that?
That trailer really helped us too, because I think
Did it?
up until that point, again, there wasn't a lot of promotion because it was just a Sci-Fi Channel movie, and they did their normal promotions, and we put up this crazy trailer, and I think it was people were watching it going, okay, they just put all the best stuff in the trailer. There's nothing else, and I think we were daring them to hate our movie and dare them to think that there was nothing else, and then you watch the movie, and it's just like cram packed with. I mean, just the first 5 minutes, you have a Sharknado, and
it is a nonstop fun fest without a doubt. So let's do this. We're going to play a track from that, the Ballad of Sharknado, and this was written with you and Robbie Rist, correct?
Yeah, Robbie and I generally write a lot of songs. We try to contribute to the film, and I kind of knew early on that it would be if the Ramones were still around, could what would they do for us?
Right.
And so the Ballad of Sharknado was kind of born. It started off, we were trying to do a Sharknado rock opera. And so we were going to do like Sharknado Rhapsody. We wanted to do something. And
Sharknado Rhapsody.
Yes. And so I started coming up with this idea for the Sharknado, which was like, go, run away from the Sharknado. And then we got into Robbie's studio, and we were playing around with it, and he started putting the music to it and stuff. And the lyrics came very quickly. And then it's like, we're not doing the rock up. This is too good. it was just perfect. And a lot of stuff with Robbie's really quick. We tend to like get these songs done and really fast. And I'm just really proud of this thing. I mean, Robbie's playing on this. I'm singing, and it's got this weird little following. It's like I was looking on the internet, and we did a music video for it too. But I was on the internet, and someone was like the Ballad of Sharknado, and I put it on, and there was this dad who has his kid dancing in front of the TV to the Ballad of Sharknado. So you've like arrived when kids are dancing to your song.
Right.
So,
and you guys, in doing this, you operate under the tongue-in-cheek name of Quint.
Yeah, every movie that Robbie and I have done songs for pretty much every movie I've directed, and every movie we would come up with a band name, and then the band would break up, and then the next movie. So like the first movie, it was the Black and Blues Review because we did blues. The second movie, it was Toothless Jimmy and the Applejack Kids because we were doing bluegrass and gospel. We did sort of 50s stuff for Hansel and Gretel, so it was the Gingerbread Men, and then Quint because of Robert Shaw character.
Of course.
But the thing is now that people know the song and some of the other songs we did on the last movie, it's like, well, I guess we're Quint now. It's not a bad name. I like it.
No, I think it's great.
There's not that many Q bands out there, so I think we're in good shape.
So let's wait. Where did it go? What happened to? There we go. So this is the Ballad of Sharknado. Anthony Ferrante and Robbie Rist, known as Quint. Check this out.
Don't wanna get eaten by Sharknado. By air, by land, by sea, I see that Sharknado coming for me. I can't run, I can't hide, I just don't wanna die. Sharknado, Sharknado. Pick and twist and you will shout, those fish are gonna take you out. It's got teeth, it's got speed. Destruction is all it needs. No, 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 no. Run away from the Sharknado. Blood is gonna flow, flow, flow. The wanna die in Sharknado. 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 Hammerhead's one scary guy. Mako's gonna make you cry. Thresher bites, bye, bye, bye. Great whites coming open wide. Stormy weather, suicide. There's no place that you can hide. You can't stop it if you try. So, 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 so. I'm gonna find a Sharknado. Bombs are gonna explode, blow, blow. We're all gonna die in a Sharknado. 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 Sharknado.
Shark.
Well, oh yeah. That's yeah.
It's candy.
It's totally candy.
That's one of the things Robbie and I talk about a lot. Is like, that song just gets in your head. I mean, it's like it just can't. And every time we would play it in the office when we were editing, it's like I hate you guys because it's stuck in my head.
It's the whole Ramones thing is. I mean, yeah. It's just initially it sort of reminded me of rock and roll radio, and yeah. That's one of the things that always amazed me is that when there was any sort of critique and criticism about Sharknado and about any things that somehow people wanted to take it uber seriously when it's like, well, number one, read the title.
Yeah.
Number two, I mean, even the slogan for it was just "Nuff said," and to me that was so self-acknowledging of just like going, look, we get it, we know what we're doing, and so come along for the romp. That's what it's meant to be.
I think that's the hard part is that people had a hard time reconciling it. You get a lot of people going, the movie's so bad it's so good, but it's like I was a critic for years. If a movie's bad, I'm not going to watch it. Right. And I think it's like it's a movie that what I think in a lot of cases it's like it's so ridiculous I can't accept the fact that I'm enjoying watching a movie about sharks in a tornado. And one of the things I've come to accept too with the concept, especially after all the crazy stuff we did in the first movie. I say that, when we started coming up with things like, oh, sharks can't do that. You'd read these things. Oh, they can't live out of the water. They can't live out of this. Our villain is a Sharknado. It's not a shark. It's not a tornado. It's a Sharknado. And it's just like Freddy or Jason. It could do whatever we say it does. Yeah. And so if you accept that, then it works. And I think that you have a lot of people that couldn't reconcile, but then you had, because we hit the mainstream, because I thought maybe we would get the stoners that would appreciate it. You get stoned, watch the movie, and then and that was our audience, and maybe the horror crowd would be with us. But we got middle America, which is why the thing blew up. And we did signing at Comic-Con last year, and we had little kids they're obsessed. They wanted our poster sign. It's like, because the movie has a sort of innocence, like a kid came up with this sort of the thing out like ADD kind of thing.
I mean, you blew up Twitter, right? There was something, I remember when it came out, it was sort of like Twitter was taken over by Sharknado.
Yeah, it blew up. It was one of those things where basically it was a communal movie-going experience. The filmmakers were tweeting, everybody was tweeting. It was appointment viewing. In a world where everybody DVRs TV shows, everybody decided to stay home that night. I mean, it wasn't a huge audience, but there was a lot of people watching it in groups, which only equates for like one one viewer for Nielsen's. And
Sure.
stuff. But Twitter showed that there was just insane appetite. You had Mia Farrow tweeting about the movie, and I think it was it was a summer where there was a lot of serious films that were big blockbusters. There were really good movies, but it was just like you had Man of Steel there was no fun in Superman. It was just really dark and brooding, like the Dark Knight stuff.
Right.
You had Pacific Rim, which was a great movie, but it was very dark. And so here was just this fun popcorn thing that you didn't need to go spend $15 in a movie theater to go see, and it looked like it could be a blast. Mm-hmm. And like I said, people either loved it or hate it. But to me, it's like, look, people love or hate every single movie you can name.
Sure.
People love or hate Star Wars. People love or hate Star Trek, or even Transformers. Michael Bay gets criticized all the time, but people love his movies as well. And I think as long as people are talking about your movies, if you watch the whole movie and you hate it, great. I'm okay with that. But if you watch
at least show up.
If you watch 5 minutes and go, "This is the worst movie ever," no, watch the whole movie and then do it.
Right.
It's the critic in me.
So then this moves on to, and so now you've got the sequel that's coming out end of July, right?
Yep. Yeah, July 30th, which is actually my birthday. It's kinda cool.
Well, happy birthday to you.
Yeah, I like to tell people, yes, it was part of my contract negotiations. Damn it, I'm not doing this unless you air it on my birthday. No, it just ended up, it was, I don't know, it's a fluke that I don't think that ever happens. And it was just kind of a neat little present. So
obviously, without giving away too much, because, we want people to tune in on July 30th in groups or alone or both, or I don't know. So how does the story sort of evolve?
Well, I think there was a lot there's a lot that happened to all of us with Sharknado, where it was bigger than all of us, and people were talking about it, and you thought, okay, it's 15 minutes, it's supposed to go away, and it just kind of didn't go away. And so when the production company and Sci-Fi and Thunder 11, who wrote the first movie, we were sitting around talking about what it would be about. There was a little bit of what happened to Finn. And I was always joking that, well, if you really think about what happened with Finn and his family, they caused a lot of collateral damage. It's like they took bombs and threw them into a Sharknado, and they may have stopped it, but they probably wiped out a lot of Los Angeles in the process. And so I don't think that I in my head, I didn't think Los Angeles was very appreciative of what he did.
Right.
And so, and also, and in my head, I kept thinking, God, there was probably some like idiot kid with like his iPhone, and as Finn was chainsawing his way out, someone videotaped that. And I mean, this is not
ended up on TMZ.
Yeah, it ended up on TMZ, and it just became a meme. And so I mean, that's not in the movie, but in my head, that's kind of what happened with him. Is like he was a hero as a surf legend, but he was a hero for the wrong reasons.
Right.
For this, he just was trying to save his family and try to save people. And yet he's now the guy that chainsawed his way out of a shark and lived to tell about it. And so that going into that was kind of like, okay, the hero's going back to New York, which is his hometown, and so he's trying to find himself again. And that's kind of where we start off.
That's the jumping off point.
But then we don't spend a lot of time with that because things start happening very quickly in our film. And one of the great things about New York is the first movie. I live in Los Angeles now, so. When you're shooting here, it's kind of like you're used to things. Oh, we're shooting at the pier. It's the 6th Street Bridge in downtown LA.
There's those locations you go to.
Yeah, and you're immune to LA. It's not. There's no magic anymore. And the first movie was never intended. We never thought it would blow up. So it's like we were hodgepodging things together to make it work for our story. Like it was a airport in Van Nuys is our finale, but here's this alley, here's this, and there was no cohesiveness to when we were shooting it because we were at the mercy of a low budget movie. But when we were to do New York, it's like you have the landmarks. And I've only been in New York a couple times, so to actually shoot a movie in New York was like it was like being a kid in a toy store. It's like I got all these Tinker toys to play with, and so it's like, okay, we have all these landmarks. Now we're gonna go from point A to point B, and we're gonna actually have landmarks we're gonna go to, and we're gonna have a finale at something that everybody knows, as opposed to a parking lot. And that was the fun part about it. And I've never done a sequel or a remake. I haven't written one. I haven't directed one until this movie. And so it was one of those things where I didn't think there was any ideas. And the moment they said New York, it's like, what if we did this? Oh no, wouldn't it be cool if we did that? And so it just it just spiraled, and all these crazy ideas ended up being put in the movie. And it's also kind of an interesting thing is when studios do sequels to their movies, there's like a 2-year gap, and everybody gets to go and have a vacation and
Right.
swim around in the money they made off the first movie, which we didn't obviously do on this one. But we literally jumped right into Sharknado 2 right after the success of Sharknado, and so it feels like I have not stopped making Sharknado. So there is a consistency in tone. The only other positive thing about what happened is that we were allowed to be a little more aware of what we were doing. The characters are still in the moment, but there was just some, like, we had Judd Hirsch in the movie, and there's some really
You have
funny
Judd
ones
Hirsch in the movie
playing a taxi driver.
Oh, no way!
For
really?
the Bickle taxi cab company.
That's cool.
And he picks up Finn in New York, and he goes, so what does it smell like in the inside of a shark? And it was just and he sells it. And again, everything has to be played seriously for it to work. And he just nailed it. So.
That's so good. In fact, and I was going to ask, and you had John Hurd in the first one, and John Hurd, a tremendous actor.
Oh God, John Hurd was the coolest, and actually, even he's only there for 5 days when we're shooting, but I got to get to know him even more when we were doing all the press for the Sharknado 1, and it's just, he was so cool, and he wasn't quite sure what to make of what we were doing, because we were moving so fast, probably faster than he'd ever moved before. And I was throwing curveballs at him, like, hey, let's change this, let's do this, and let's, and he I think at the end of the day he goes, I'm not quite sure what just happened and what you did, but I think there's a method to your madness. It was like a compliment, but he was like, I think you're insane, which is okay,
right?
but then it was just such a pleasure working with him, and
Sure.
and the fact that afterwards he was just in heaven. It was just it was great.
I mean, how was it? I mean, approaching somebody like him, and and Ian Ziering, and Tara Reid, and these are not no-name people, and you were approaching them with this kind of bizarre, crazy idea. How did those meetings go? Did they look at you like, are you fucking nuts?
Well, a lot of it is they cast by casting their net out. The way they cast these films, they go, okay, we have our list of 40 people, and they went through a lot of people for Finn. Everybody turned them down on Sharknado. I mean, everybody.
Wow.
There were people who go, oh, that would be cool, and you go, there's no way they're going to get it. Then there'd be like odd choices like Dave Foley, which would have been interesting, but it would have been a comedy.
Right.
We came very close to getting Crispin Glover in the movie.
Oh, wow.
I had a long conversation with him, and the first thing he goes, why do you want me in this movie? I'm like, I don't know, because it would be fun. And he started asking all these questions, and then he decided not to do it. And then this was the coolest part, is like when they said, look, Ian Ziering's doing the movie, I'm going, yes. It's like, normally like you hear like someone's getting cast in a big studio movie going, yes, that's the right person. The moment they said Ian Ziering, I'm like, why didn't we go to him right off the bat? He's the perfect person for this role. And I met him, and he was totally into it. And he was like a rock star when we were shooting the movie. He just got so into it, and he gave himself 150%, especially, again, knowing actors. Think about this. Hey, Ian, I want to dump like a bunch of gallons of blood on you, and I want you to birth yourself out of a shark. Can you do that for me? most actors are going to go to hell. Fuck you. I'm going to my trailer.
Right.
He was like, let's do it. And he did it, and he committed. And I think that's part of the reason why the movie in that sequence also endeared people, because he just gave it his all. And coming into the second movie, because he saw what we did with the sharks, because he hadn't never done a visual effects movie before, so he's trusting us on the first one, a lot of trust. And then when we did the second one, he knew what the VFX department was capable of and what we could do. So all the time he's like, hey, what if I like put my foot down like I'm to the shark, and I take the axe and do that? And he was just so physically ready. And it just makes your movie so much better, because he's there, and we were just constantly changing and manipulating the script to address our locations and stuff. I mean, think about it. We shot both movies in 18 days, each movie.
Wow.
And when we were in New York, we had a little less time with principal cast than we needed. And we were doing major locations. Like we shot a boat going over to Liberty Island in the morning. We shot Liberty Island for 2 hours. We shot coming off of Liberty Island. We shot Wall Street. We shot a bike chase. We shot Benji from the Howard Stern Show getting eaten. We shot another death, and then we had a makeup effect on the ground at the end of the day, and that was a 12-hour day.
Wow.
One day.
That was a 12-hour day?
That was a 12-hour day.
Holy shit.
We went to, one day we went to a bodega, a pizza store, Times Square, and then this other store, and we did that all in a day. The thing that people don't realize is we have limited time to do this, and yet we have an amazing crew. Like I have my regular DP Ben Demery, and we just are very aggressive in trying to get this stuff and have fun at the same time. When you make a Sharknado movie, you go out to set. The first AD gives you a shot of epinephrine, and then just shoves you out there and go. And it's like, hey, guess what? You have to write a role for this cameo right now. Great, okay, hey, let's do this. Oh, guess what? This isn't working, but you got to go here because we got to get this one. Okay, great. And at the end of the day, you have a movie, and you make it work. And it's always like there's another thing too. I say is like most movies are puzzles. Making a Sharknado movie is like playing a game of Jenga. Every day you come out the set, it's like someone's pulling something out. It's like, don't make it topple. Hey, guess what? You only have 2 actors today. Oh, you have this, and then you're like, and that's the fun part. And I think that's why there's an energy to these movies.
Sure,
because it's almost when you're making it, it's about desperation of if we don't get this, we don't have it. And so you got to find a way to make it work.
That's awesome. I would have to expect when the whole thing's over, there's like this point where you go, I'm going to fall down now.
Yeah, actually, part of it too is not getting sick. So it's like on set, I'm taking vitamins and echinacea, and it's like, and also because I kind of people call me a method director because like if you don't know what's in front of you, I'm like screaming and yelling, then there's a shark and it's coming at you, shark! And you try to get the reaction because it's, you're acting opposite something.
Right.
And, you just say, okay, there's a shark coming. It's not as big as the director going, okay, 1, 2, 3, shark! Right. And just like they're running, they're jumping back. And that's, so I lost my voice on both movies. At least a couple times I lost my voice.
Did you shoot was there any footage of behind the scenes stuff for either of these?
There's some. There's actually probably the craziest thing we did in New York was on that day with the Liberty Island.
Yeah.
We didn't know we were going to get. We needed this yacht scene, and we could never afford a yacht or a ferry to do it. And then we realized if we shoot unofficially on the ferry going toward the island and coming back, we could probably get those scenes because there was just no time to get everybody together to do it.
Right.
So we shot going there with the 2 characters going to the island. And we counted it was 15 minutes. We go, okay, when we come back, we could do this whole sequence in 15 minutes. And so we had 2 additional actors that they met on the island. And we had to rejigger what was originally written to make it work. And I said, okay, I told the camera guys, great New York crew that let us do this. And then the actresses, I said, okay, this is what's going to happen. We're going to do this. And when we get on the boat, just trust me, I'm gonna be going, this is what's going on. It's gonna be this long 15-minute take, and we're gonna get as much coverage as we can. So literally the moment they get on the boat, say, okay, get on the boat. All right, now you're gonna run over to the banister and go, the sharks are coming. Hey, go. Okay, Cameron, now move in, get a close up. Sharks are coming. Get a plate shot of the water so we can put the sharks in there. Okay, now you come over here and you go and see what's going on. So the other actress goes up there. Okay, now you're looking, look at what's that? Now the shark is gonna attack you. Now act like you fall back like the shark attacked you. And so she goes back a couple times, and now get the taser, do the taser. Okay, now scream. Okay, you guys scream over here. Now you guys run out. We did it in 15 minutes.
Wow!
About 12, 13 bits of setups, and it was all me just doing this kind of like telling them what's going on and them trusting me, and it was the most expensive student movie ever made. it was like making a student film at that point, but we had to do it because if we didn't, we didn't have a sequence.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it's like it's you get this take, and this is the one you get.
But they were, and this thing is, you had people that trust you. You had a crew, you had producers, you had a cast. If they don't trust what you're trying to do, or they think you're insane, like on a really insane level,
right?
You're not going to get anything accomplished.
So I want to take a quick moment, and we're going to play a track from Sharknado 2, and I think we should do. I'm going to take a bite out of this Big Apple. And then we'll talk a bit more about that. But I also want to talk about maybe where you would like things to go, be it Sharknado or anything else at all. And then, if you want take a whack at doing one swing away live in the studio, you let me know if you want to do that.
We'll see about that. So this track, this is Robbie singing. We wanted to do our own New York. And it started off, we were going, well, let's do it as a big band thing, but we weren't really capable of that in the short amount of time. So it started off, kind of traditional, and then it kind of became like Johnny Rotten doing My Way. But I'm really proud of this. Robbie and I wrote it with Tony Leventhal, a friend of his from the Mockers. And this is our ode to New York.
Cool. So this is I'm going to take a bite out of this Big Apple from Sharknado 2. Enjoy.
I won't give in. It's sink or swim. Like gold blue eyes before me, I'm playing to win. Like many I found, when life gets you down, it takes an empire state of mind to touch liberty's crown. I'm gonna take a bite out of this big apple before it takes a bite out of me. Like Adam and Eve, you gotta roll up your sleeves and take a bite out of life, or pack 'em and leave. From on top of the rock, down to Battery Park, the streets are filled with dreamers, and I'll play that part. I'm gonna take a bite out of this big apple before it takes a bite out of me. Rockefeller Center's like I never met you, never been one for goodbyes. Apple of my eye, my all-American pie. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm planning to stay, gonna make my own way. I see my name up in lights down old Broadway. I'm gonna take a bite out of this big apple before it takes a bite out of me. I'm gonna take a bite out of this big apple before it takes a bite out of me. Out of me. Out of me. Hey, I'm walking here.
Nice Midnight Cowboy reference at the end. All right, so that may be my new favorite song. That was so great. And actually, just at the end of that, I had this vision of the Rockettes being on stage doing the joint kicks,
Yep.
and a shark flying by and biting all their legs off.
You know, if we had the budget, we would be doing that music video. It's just the fun part about working with Robbie is he's one of the most talented musicians in LA.
Yeah.
And just an amazing producer. And you know, all this stuff it's like two guys. Most of the instrumentation is Robbie. Joseph Metcalf, who is a composer, did the piano bit for us.
Great.
And you know, Robbie just slayed the vocals on this thing. It was just funny. The evolution is like, you know, it's really great too with Robbie. There's no ego involved. It's like we don't like something. It's like, I don't like that. It's like, okay, you got to try harder, make it better. and we had that bridge. It was actually the hardest part. It's like Robbie had this thing of Rockefeller Center. It's like I never met you, and it's like it was like da 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 da. And so he was kind of playing some guitar, and I was listening to it, and I'm like, oh, I got it. And it's like Rockefeller Center. It's like I never met you. Never won 4 goodbyes. Apple of my eye. All American pie. It was just like every freaking cliche you could throw in there. And he played it. He's played it at a few of his concerts. And he said something was like, you know, you had every single cliche in there, but it works.
Yeah, it does. Oh, that was just, I'm putting that on my iPod. No, nicely done, really.
Oh, thank you.
And so, is that like an end credit thing for the sequel, or is it like appear in the movie?
It's toward the end of the movie.
Yeah,
yeah. It's one of the last moments in the movie.
Cool.
Yeah.
Don't say anything more.
I won't say anything
Yes.
And the thing is, the great thing about it is it as opposed to Sharknado, which was, we are embracing, the Sharknado song. The Big Apple song, it works as a song. It doesn't.
Right.
It has, if you construe it to tie into the movie, it's great because it's I want to take a bite of the Big Apple before it takes a bite out of me. But it also
stands on its own.
Stand on its own. That's kind of the whole thing too. It's like if you think about it, part of the reasons why Robbie and I would write these things for the movies is that we couldn't afford to license songs, and there's not a lot of great songs out there. That if you want to license something for $50, you're gonna get what you get.
Right.
So you want to if you want a New York song, you got to do it yourself, and hopefully it comes out pretty cool.
And it did.
Thank you.
Oh, very cool. So let's see. Not to jump the gun, but I don't know. Do you think there might be a Sharknado 3? Is there a trilogy? Lord of the NATO.
Lord of the NATO. They announced that they're going to do a third movie.
Oh, really?
But no one's been hired or anything.
Right.
And, I mean, it's still. I mean, I think we got to wait to see how this one does and
Sure.
how people respond to it. But I mean, it's like the first movie. I never thought there'd be a sequel, and if this goes well, I'm sure there'll be another one, and hopefully everybody gets to come back. The hard part is you've done L.A. and New York, so what's next? But again, it's like just like the second movie, you keep coming up with things like, "Hey, what about this?" And,
right.
So it's just it's a great. I've written a lot of horror scripts where there's heavy mythology, and some of my movies I've directed have had heavy mythology. But I think the great thing about Sharknado that's liberating is that we purposely avoid mythology. We don't say a scientist created it or it was this or it's you may have a hint that it's global warming, but it just shows up.
Right.
And because of that, again, you could do anything, whatever you want. We do some things in this movie. It's like it defies any kind of logic of what a tornado or a shark could do, but it's a Sharknado, and that's what it can do that because it's a Sharknado.
I think Paris would be a great location.
I would love to do international. I mean, because I think at that point, you want to make it a global threat, but no one's really discussed any of this stuff. I mean, it's just they wanted to do an early announcement and get people excited, and
we'll see, because I think you could do it in France, and when the Sharknado hits, all the French people just wave white flags and let themselves get eaten. Just we give up. It's fine. I'm tasty. Do that. Shorter movie, but good times.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
So are there other scripts? I mean, obviously having a horror background, and I'm a huge horror fan, but do you have scripts or ideas for other kinds of movies or things that you would like to direct also?
Yeah, no, I mean, prior to Sharknado, I mean, I had a lot of things that like a lot of pet projects that I want to get made. One of them actually is written with Regent St. Clair, Candy Apple Black,
right?
Which I'm sure you're aware of.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of that.
And so that's something we've been trying to get made for a while. I have another script called The Key that I wrote with Jacob Hare. That is, it's kind of like if David Cronenberg wrote and directed Pretty in Pink. And
that sounds interesting. I like it.
The thing is, we wrote it many years ago, and now there's been a lot of things encroaching on some of the stuff that we've done. So some of the original stuff has now kind of become like the Kid in the Van stuff, and so we might have to do a little bit more of a polish on that to kind of reinvigorate it. But it's a great story. It's a great script, and we got about like 50 pieces of conceptual art. I also have a thriller that I want to do called Agony. Which, one of my favorite movies is Blood Simple, and I was fascinated by the structure of that movie, because if you look at it, it's not really a movie about big twists, but after like the 10th or 11th viewing, you realize that the Coen brothers gave every character certain information, but not all the information, and the audience has certain information, and even just the little thing at the very end of the movie where it's not a big twist, but it's like Frances McDormand doesn't realize who's trying to stalk her. I loved what they did. So I, as an exercise, I wanted to write a script where I gave characters certain information. I gave the audience certain information, but I didn't give everybody all the information. I wanted to see, can I do a thriller where no one knows everything? And that's where Agony came about. And I think that's something I really, really want to make, because it's a single location thing, and it's just got a lot of twists, and it's fun. It's it's only 4 characters. And so that's kind of stuff. I'd love to do some really suspenseful, scary stuff. But the bizarre thing is when Sharknado hit, like I didn't think I was going to be making comedies and big action things. So all the stuff I had developed was dark horror stuff. So you can't go from the director of Sharknado, agony. You know, it's
Exactly.
it's not the thing. So I love this the fact that the opportunities that Sharknado is affording is that now people
Sure.
are looking at me in a different way in the sense that I still have the horror background,
Mm-hmm.
but I also can do visual effects movies. I can do comedies. I can do action. And so, you know, that hopefully opens up the door. I mean, you got Gareth Edwards who did Monsters, and now he just did Godzilla. You know,
Right.
James Gunn doing Guardians of the Galaxy. I think that there's a value in people like me that can do these things on these low budgets and try to make these big epic movies because we're not used to the money hose. So so we go, hey, you just gave me this. I'm going to give you a $300 million movie for $50 million. Or,
Right.
And I think that's kind of the exciting part about what's happened with the studio system, because before it'd be like, oh, we need Spielberg, we need Michael Bay, we need this guy, and now it's like, hey, this guy's eager and hungry.
Right.
Let's give him a chance.
Mm-hmm.
So
Very cool. So, let's see. We are winding down towards the end of the show, although we might be able to run over a little bit. So the Sharknado 2 is premiering on July 30th, but I thought I saw something. There's going to be sort of like a Sharknado marathon of sorts on Sci-Fi for like a few days.
they're doing
something?
Sharknado Week.
Sharknado Week.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Discovery Channel does Shark Week, where I guess they're doing Sharknado Week, which I think they're going to have shark movies all the time, Sharknado all the time, you know, and then building up to the premiere, which it's really cool because there's just so many people that are interested in this. That like, who would have figured that this like when I was doing Sharknado, I'm going, look, if I'm going to destroy my career, I'm going to destroy my career with Sharknado, and I'm going to go down with the most outrageous, ridiculous movie ever, and then it became huge, and I'm eternally grateful for what happened with it. So I think the interesting thing is we're going to get a lot of people that are going to be watching it in groups, and we're going to get a lot of families, and we didn't really change the tact and how we made it, like knowing that there's a lot of kids that like the movie. We didn't go, oh, we're suddenly going to sanitize it. I mean, the first movie had arms being ripped off, and yet they're like 5-year-olds that are like going, I was Sharknado for Halloween. So, you know, the movie's still edgy, but I still think there's that sense of fun. And I mean, we don't take it too seriously. And I think that's the magic of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but I grew up watching anvils get dropped out of the sky on coyotes, and finding that quite amusing. So, yeah, I think, I mean, when something is done that way and it's got that very cartoony, comedic, you can't take it seriously. And you go, oh, that's gruesome. And why am I giggling? You know?
Yeah.
And I think that plays. I think it comes out that way, which is one of the reasons why I think kids dig it. And one of the reasons that parents also go, it's no big deal. It's, you know, it's just a slightly more lively version of a cartoon.
There are far worse things out there.
Yes.
And you know where horror's gone with the torture porn and stuff. I think you need a little levity. And and so, you know, look, this is the first movie that I've done that my daughter was able to see, and she was 10 last year, and,
wow.
and we let her watch it, and she liked it. It didn't scare her. I've had people tell me like their kids were afraid of sharks, and then they watched Sharknado and they weren't afraid of sharks anymore. So I think you got Jaws that made it afraid to go into the water,
right? And
you have Sharknado that made you okay to laugh at sharks,
right?
And so,
of course, I'm still afraid to go into a tornado, though. So
tornado, I can't help you with that.
So I mean, speaking of different kind of. One of the things that I found interesting in sort of the horror genre has been sort of this rise in the last few years of some of the really extreme, even above and beyond some of the torture porn, but like some of the Asian and Korean stuff. Like, I mean, have you seen the movie I Saw the Devil?
No, I have not seen that.
Oh, man. All right. I just rented it a few weeks ago. That's why it came to mind. And it's kind of a horror film. It's more of a psychological cat and mouse game that it starts off at this place you're going, oh, this seems a little bit predictable. I heard this was great. And then it takes this hard left turn, and you spend like the next hour and a half with your jaw in your lap going, and occasionally with your hands over your eyes going, I can't look at that. I mean, have you seen much of sort of, I mean, they even just call it extreme Asian, you know, cinema.
You know, when I used to interview actors and filmmakers, like, I don't get a chance to see much, and you know, honestly, it's like you're in a bubble when you're making these movies.
Yeah.
So I don't get to see a lot of movies now, and it sucks because there's so many I want to see. I still haven't seen X-Men.
Really?
I saw Godzilla, which I thought was fun. But
Mhm.
it's so there's because you're working nonstop, and then you get a couple hours sleep, and then you're back to the grind.
Right.
So it's like to sit and watch something. It's like I'll be watching, and TV has actually been a lot easier because it's in smaller bursts.
Right.
Fargo, the TV series, was fantastic.
I haven't had a chance to see
Oh my
that yet,
God,
but I hear
was-
it's great.
that was so incredible.
Yeah?
You were suspect because it's like, well, how can you do a Coen Brothers thing? But they were exec producers, and you feel that they were involved. But the writer Noah Hawley, he wrote all 10 episodes, and it's like a 10-hour movie, and it had different directors, but it was consistent.
Wow.
It was the most amazing 10-hour Coen Brother movie ever made.
All right, so that's once I get Netflix, it'll be on the Netflix
Exactly.
menu, yeah. That's crazy. So, all right. So, question: there's one track left.
Yes.
Would you care to take a swing at One Swing Away? We can do the recorded version. What do you feel comfortable with? And
I can attempt to play it. I've not played it live yet, so we can. Go
I'm
for it.
a big fan of premieres. I think it's a phenomenal idea.
Let me get set up. But basically, the same thing with the New York. We actually we had the Mets let us use Citi Field for the movie.
Really?
Major League Baseball. Sports community really embraced Sharknado, even though there really wasn't a lot of sports in the movie.
Mhm.
And when you say, "Oh, you're going to New York," what's as big as New York, and that's baseball. And so I said, we have to do something with baseball in this movie. We have to. And the thing is, everybody's going, "You're insane. Major League Baseball is never going to sign off on you doing any destruction at their fields or doing anything." It's like, we got to try. And the producers kept working up to the last minute. And the Mets came through, and Citi Field and Major League Baseball came through. We filmed for a full day at Citi Field.
Wow.
And it was like military operation. We had so much stuff we had to do in that one day.
Mhm.
And it was just so awesome. It was just like, you're a kid and you're shooting at a ballpark.
Right.
And so we needed to write a baseball song for the movie.
Mhm.
And we started thinking about it too. Robbie and I kind of tried to do our research as well. It's like, okay, how many baseball songs are out there? And we tried to count them. So let's go. Name the top 5 baseball songs.
Oh man, I'm not a baseball fan. Well, obviously, Take Me Out to the Ball Game.
Okay,
That's
that's
the obvious
everybody
one.
knows that
Yeah,
one. The second one is kind of obvious.
I'm thinking the national anthem.
Nope.
No.
Center Field by John Fogerty.
Oh, duh. Yes. Okay.
And that's it. No, because we went through and go the top 20. We looked online. It's like, so there's a lot of specific to teams songs, and then there's some kind of obscure stuff. How is it that there's only 2 known baseball songs? So it's like, okay, so the challenge for us was, can we write a baseball song that's kind of a fun rock song, and that's where One Swing Away (parenthesis batter up) came from, and it was a fun little thing to write. So.
That's cool. Well, I think we need to enter song number 3 in the pantheon of baseball songs.
Hopefully they'll be forgiving.
Well, the great thing is we can always edit. So this is a premiere. This is actually live in the studio on acoustic guitar and vocals. This is Anthony Ferrante playing the song "One Swing Away" from the upcoming Sharknado 2. So sit back and enjoy.
Bases are loaded, bottom of the ninth. Standing here in the box, I'm ready for a fight. Got a southpaw hurler and the sun's in my eyes, and I'm one swing away from coming home tonight. Standing on the seating, tension starting to mount. I can't hear myself think over the roar of the crowd. She's waiting back at home, I'm gonna make her proud, and I'm one swing away from being homeward bound. The bat will crack and the crowd will cheer. This would be a perfect game if you were near, but you're not here. I got the heart of a champion, I'm tried and I'm true. I'm filled with the glory of old 42. I'll be paying for a windshield, but that's just what I do, and I'm one swing away from coming home to you. When I look back on my glory days. I'll be amazed at how we won the game and stayed the same. I'm stepping up to the plate and there's no excuse. Time to batter up and let this mother loose. The season's almost over, let me introduce the man who's one swing away from coming home to you. Yeah, I'm one swing away from coming home to you. Yeah, I'm one swing away from coming home to you.
Woohoo! That's a great tune, man.
Oh, thank you. That was another Robbie and I.
Some serious pop songs going on.
And Jenny Rosen also helped on that song.
So if there's a Sharknado 3, I think something along with the Bay City Rollers might be in order.
Yeah, you know, a lot of times too is like it's like, okay, what do we want to do? And it's like, actually, what are the songs we wanted to kind of do? We wanted to see if we could actually do sort of a kind of a Beastie Boys kind of rap thing because we've never done rap before. So, but that never manifested itself. It just there was nothing that kind of felt right. So the baseball song was a blast. I mean, I'm really proud of that one. It's the thing is too. It's fun. It's like we sit and talk about what it's going to be about. It's like how the guy in the bass and he's been going through the whole season. He wants to just get home, but it has the double meaning,
right?
And it's we listen to these things. It's like these things are way too catchy and they get in our heads, and people are like, I just can't get the song out of my head. There's not a lot of songs like that anymore. You get like a song like Happy every once in a while or more, but a lot of stuff on the radio. It's just that there's that joy, like we were talking about movies sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just that kind of, I think, because Robbie and I are kind of old school in that. It's like, you want something that elicits some kind of emotion. And this stuff doesn't get written because it's not as popular anymore.
It's not as cool and in vogue, etc. But no, I mean, I agree. I mean, to me, all of these songs have a great pop sensibility, and they have that very classic hook. There's something singable about it. There's something very memorable about it. And yeah, I truly wish there was a lot more of it. And to me, one of the great things is then having something like that surrounded by the phenomenon that is the Sharknado stuff. I'm like, this just makes all the sense in the world to me. It just really does. I just go, yeah, it's In fact, I know that not giving away any plot secrets from the first one. I know that Robbie got killed off in the first one. Was anything going on where like maybe he would just continue making appearances and get killed off like Kenny in South Park?
Oh, I would. I'd love to do that with some of these characters. I mean, we were actually thinking of trying to sneak Robbie on the airplane.
Yeah.
That we have in the movie, but we were shooting in New York, and we came back and only did a couple days here in L.A. and it just didn't. We didn't get the opportunity. I still believe that Baz, the character played by Jason Simmons in the first movie, as far as I'm concerned, he's still alive. I mean, he may have got sucked up into the tornado with the shark on his leg, but
that doesn't prove anything.
He landed in Kansas.
Yeah,
I'm positive he's in Kansas. So to me, he's not dead. There's a lot of that stuff. It's just that when you have so little time, you don't really have time to kind of earmark all this stuff. And Sharknado 2 is filled with cameos. I mean, there was never like, hey, let's hire a background person or hire another actor like a really up and comer. No, it's like if you had to have a name, you're in the film. It's like, oh, we got Peppa from Salt and Peppa. She's going to play the friend. We got a call. Richard Kind wants to be in the movie, and so we wrote a little part for him at the baseball field. And Robert Klein's in the film, and Judah Friedlander, who tweeted the night of Sharknado. My favorite tweet. He said, "Yes, I directed Sharknado under the pseudonym of Anthony C. Ferrante." And so I tweeted back, "Yes, I starred on 30 Rock under the pseudonym Judah Friedlander." And so he wanted to be in Sharknado 2, and they said, "Oh yeah, we got Judah." And so I called Judah and started talking to him, and it's like, "Yeah, they're gonna have me play the train engineer." I'm like, "Well, do you want to do more in the movie?" It's like that's only like one line. It's like, "I'll do whatever you want, man." And so I'm like, okay, so we combined this couple characters together and gave him like a longer arc in the movie because he wanted to be more in the movie. And you got Judah Friedlander.
Right.
I don't want to just throw him away and say, "Hi, I'm Judah." I mean, you want this guy to be a major part of it. He could be our John Hurd. And so that was kind of a chance. But of course, we had Judd Hirsch and Judah, so we had two John Hurds in a way.
Wow.
But yeah, Judah was fantastic. And there's a few surprise cameos. There's a couple things that people will watch it going. We've managed to keep a few surprises because everything that we
Mum's the
did on
word.
this movie, it's like, it's written up. Every single news organization knows. The first day of shooting, we had paparazzi surrounding us in New York, and they were shooting our scene. And we're going to add a lot of CGI, but literally the moment that we shot that whole scene went up on every single website, and we started joking. It's like, you know what? We don't really need to have an extra camera. We'll just license the footage from these news organizations because they're doing our coverage for us. So there's a lot of things we're trying to keep quiet, and because I think again it's part of the fun. There's
Sure.
It's Sharknado, and like, oh, what are they going to keep quiet? But there's this expectation, and everybody keeps going, how are you going to top the ending of the last movie? And it's like, I don't think you can. So all you can do is make the coolest thing that you can and hope that there's something in the movie that someone will pull out of it. And I think because we understand intrinsically what's kind of magical about it,
right?
There's a lot of really cool moments. Is someone gonna go, oh, this is like the same thing as someone going into the shark? I don't know. I mean, I don't think you can replicate that. We knew it was cool and original when we did it, but we didn't think it was going to be a meme.
Right.
But we have a few things. I mean, I'd say the first 12 minutes of this movie will actually surprise a lot of people. It's pretty insane.
Can't wait. That's so cool. So in the middle of all this, are there just some mornings you just wake up and you just start giggling?
No, it's there. These things are so hard to do. You can't giggle. Because you have so much work to do. The visual effects guys had to do over 300 visual effects shots in about less than a month and a half.
Wow.
So you're picking shots before you have a lock cut. You're trying to figure out the pieces of the puzzle, and you're always thinking of the movie nonstop. There's so many moving pieces, so it's not just like you had 2 years. You have time to do this. Right now, you're trying to make sure that nothing gets slipped through the cracks.
Right.
And you giggle when you're making the movie. You giggle when it starts coming together, but then all the other time it's like, okay, I need some more epinephrine. Get it for me, please, quick. Don't make that Jenga tower fall.
Well, I am totally looking forward to seeing it and seeing where I know that you've done. Obviously it hasn't since it hasn't aired. Do you think there might be? I know that you did sort of like a limited some theatrical screenings. You think that's something that might happen as well?
Well, the Riff Tracks, the guys from Mystery Science Theater 3000, is going to actually do a Riff Tracks screening for Sharknado 1 mid-July. I don't know the correct date. I think it might be the 13th or 14th. One of those days, so don't quote me on it, but so that'll be in Regal Cinemas, and so there's going to be a theatrical on that. And I haven't heard if they're going to be doing a showing like a midnight showing like they did with Sharknado a few weeks later, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was one because that worked so well last year.
Yeah.
So that would actually be fun because that was our premiere. Our real premiere was the Regal screening 3 weeks after the airing. We actually had a red carpet for this movie, and it was nuts. And it was so fun seeing it with an audience. Because you actually saw the stuff that worked and the stuff that didn't. When you see in the Twitter, everybody's kind of having fun with it, but to actually see it on the screen to see is this joke working or not, and it's like, oh wow, these jokes actually do work.
So cool. Well, we've gone a bit over, but that's okay. We're allowed because that's the kind of show this is. But I want to really once again thank you so much for taking the time to do this and sharing the music and playing something live, a little bit of cool premiere stuff. I really, really appreciate that, and tremendous talking with you. And yeah, and I for one, Ken, I'm totally looking forward to checking out Sharknado 2 and seeing where your visions take you, because you describe how you described Agony. I'm already sitting here going, cool. When do I get to see that? So I'm excited to sort of see where all of this begins to take you, and I can't imagine for 1 minute it won't be great stuff. So
thank you so much.
It's been fun. So thank you again so much for making yourself available and being so forthcoming. And everybody out there, I hope you've enjoyed this interview, listening to it as much as we've enjoyed doing it. Tune in next week. My guest is going to be a purveyor of fine words by the name of Dylan Brody, and he's going to be telling some stories and telling some jokes and interesting, cool, fun stuff. Until then, I have been your host, Brian Crow. My guest has been Anthony C. Ferrante. Thank you all so much. Drive dangerously and take risks, and don't go anywhere near a Sharknado unless it's at a theater or screening near you. Take care.
South